The line to dial is 011-542-2186. Tweet at ANN7TV. Now that President Jacob Zuma has paid back the debt, hashtag paid back the money, will he recover from it? And what other questions do you have? We'll explore those with our esteemed panelists, starting from my immediate left, MMC for Safety and Security of the ACDP National Treasurer as well, Derek Kisanduth. Welcome. Tsepo Khadima is a political analyst. Butsang Muilwa is a political analyst, and we have Thembinkosi Josopo, ANC Youth League NEC member. Gentlemen, thanks so much for your time. I'll just start with you, Mr. Kisanduth, in what has transpired now, but primarily with Jacob Zuma finally closing the chapter, one would assume, in paying the money. What is your observation?
On behalf of the good evening to the listeners and viewers. Thank you for this opportunity for me to come on live on ANN7. Firstly, I would like to say that the Constitutional Court ruling is now final. We accept that the 7.8 million had to be paid. However, the ACDP takes it that the amount that he had to pay back was too little in connection to the 246 million that was cost for the upgrade.
But the 246 million were for security upgrades, and the Public Protector's report had to do with non-security upgrades, of which the President was found to be liable, and now he's paid for it. But do you think this is something that the President can recover from?
No, ordinarily this should have been, or should be, the end of the matter. If there was any take on from here going forth, I think what we need to look at is that ordinarily in projects such as the one of Nkandla, with all major infrastructure projects, there has been overspending. And that is a question that very few people are willing to ask and seek answers for. We know what was spent on Nkandla, but the question is that to what extent was the President held liable? He was held liable to the tune of 7.8 million rand. That has been paid. That is the end of the story as far as President is concerned. But as a nation, we need to be asking ourselves these hard questions. How efficient are we in managing costs on major infrastructure and economic infrastructure projects, be it building of roads, building of power stations, building of all of those things? And also, to what extent are we willing or will we demand of our law enforcement agencies to ensure that where there has been wrongdoing, where the law has been broken, as we saw in the stadia as well as the roads, the e-tolls here in Gauteng, whereby there was downright, the competition court made a finding that there was 47 billion rand stolen. That for me is the issue that I am astonished that is not being asked and is not being addressed.
Correct.
But in Nkandla, for me, it's a closed matter. The court ruled on it. I don't think that we can go any further than, because it doesn't really benefit the nation.
You concede that there is a tendency to inflate costs or prices when it comes to bulk infrastructure programs. Who is to be held liable in that case? The President has now settled the debt. Can we close the matter?
Cindy, good evening, and good evening to your listeners as your viewers as well. You know, my friend Tsepo here says, ordinarily, I think this is not the end of the matter. We are in an abnormal situation as a nation. If you have seen, the Economic Freedom Fighters have released their official statement moments ago, and the ACDP as well has raised the fact that they are not satisfied with the amount that was determined. But I've got a problem when people approach government institutions, the Chapter 9, the courts, the Treasury, and when those organizations or government institutions make decisions, then you tend, which are favorable to these opposition parties, then you tend to even question them. At the moment, the head of state has paid what was determined by the Treasury, what was ruled off by the court. But we know what is going to happen, and I've read the statements of political parties from this afternoon until 15 minutes ago. The next question is, where did he get the money from, and does he qualify to have a bond when he doesn't have a property, because Nkandla is on tribal land and so forth. So such things are coming up. But in my view, as a nation, we are supposed to move on. We are supposed to progress. We are talking 246 million minus 7.8 million, which is about 235 million of rent that were spent in Nkandla. Are we going to spend another 200 million trying to chase what happened as a nation?
Yeah, Temingos, are we really the obsession with Nkandla and Jacob Zuma now that he's paid back? What difference does this make, particularly to the perceived reputational damage to the ANC?
No, look, I think this is quite. It came at a good time for the movement, in the sense that now it will give us much more time to focus on the main key priorities of the ANC. One focus of that it is economic transformation. We're making sure that we get back our land, we get free education, and we transform our own economy from being owned by white people. I think now that is what is going to be in the agenda of the ANC and focus, because for some long we have been hamstrung in focusing on Nkandla issues. Secondly, we hope that having this matter having been resolved, we know that there is BLF that has said that there is 26 billion that must be paid back of the that was looted by white people from the apartheid. We know that last week also Mr. Mzwanele went to the public protector screaming that Miss Maria Ramos, when she was in Transnet, abused her powers, gave a 20-year contract to Kumba Iron Ore. We hope that the new public protector will focus on those things, and they must also pay back the money, because the president has been exemplary in paying back the money.
Let's get a view from the opposition. Edward Botsang was saying that this is very convenient. You then become the altruistic protectors of our constitution by saying that the money is a little bit too, it's a slap on the wrist, as it were, as opposed to talking about the real issues, that of economic transformation.
Thank you. Just to go back and highlight, the public protector is a Section 9 institution. The public protector made a ruling and a finding. If we only have taken to the heed of the public protector, we would have saved the nation multi-million rands in various aspects. Number one, various different departments were asked to investigate this matter. We sent a team of 20 MPs to Nkandla to inspect the Nkandla, the workmanship, with staff who stayed over there for a number of days.
But this is post the event. Now we're talking about Zuma having paid 7.8 million rand, and the fact that, as Botsang highlighted, the various institutions to protect our democracy have been utilized here. Treasury was involved. It was a transparent process in coming up with the 7.8 million, and yet you're still not satisfied as the opposition.
We can't be satisfied as an opposition. The reason being, we had just explained the cost that it took us to get the 7.8 million was in excess of many, many more millions, more than what we have spent to get back 7.8. In this case here, maybe if we didn't even go after the 7.8 million, would have been a better, more profitable decision by the state.
So we're saying that the Treasury has erred here. Treasury has floundered.
No.
They haven't done their work.
And that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is Treasury has given us a ruling on 7.8. The total amount of money that was spent in this issue was 246 million, of which the end result of what we spent, the 246 million, was not materialized. However, the architect got almost 50% of the 246 million, and also the workmanship of the contractors of a very poor quality, and the way they have invoiced us, the cost of invoicing.
All right, sorry to interrupt you, please.
I just want to come in there. You know, Cindy, we shouldn't mix up issues. We can't, as a nation, to do a goalpost shifting every time there's an issue at hand. If the architect inflated the prices, as Tsepo has considered to that, it happens in many of the government tenders and industry, then there should be an institutional process to can try and recover the looting from the architect if it has happened. But we are sitting here discussing that the payment that has been determined by a government department has been set off. And the question is, are we leaving this matter with the president and focusing on all other things as a nation?
Why is it that we're generally not satisfied that President has paid back?
My view, and I think it's good that Mr. Kisendo is here. Perhaps maybe he could enlighten the nation as to what is ACDP's standpoint on the 47 billion rand that was looted by the construction cartel, and that is the finding by the Competition Commission, by the way. Also, if you can maybe tell us what is the ACDP standpoint on the bread cartel, whereby again they were found to be robbing poor people, through the overpricing and colluding on the issues of prices of bread. Maybe you can tell us in terms of the cartel that runs at our ports, whereby junior mining companies have got no hope in hell of being able to export and contribute to the economy of this country. Nkandla, we know 246 million rand, we know, but we also want to know about these other hundreds of billions of rands that have been looted, and as a result of a finding, what do we do tomorrow to ensure that we recover, and what do we do to make sure that those never happen again? And since he's a legislator himself and his party is in parliament, it is a good opportunity, I think, for him to maybe inform the nation tonight as to where does ACDP stand.
Thank you. Thank you for that opportunity to answer the question. ACDP will stand firm against any form of corruption. Any form of corruption that is mentioned and meted out, true justice must prevail. We will enforce that the corrections must be taken. Those monies that have been paid is public monies. It's not any individual's money. It's public money, and we must go after that to try and recover those monies that have been wrongly taken away from the public. And the monies, even if it's collusion and colluded issues, we must turn around and rectify that. Two wrongs can't make a right. But in South Africa, there's multi-millions and billions. Even we're now going beyond billions. We're now talking about trillions. That a contract deal that we're going to do is $1 trillion strong. And these are the things that we need to start curbing now to make South Africa the envy of the world. We need to correct these matters, and those monies must be channeled in the right direction for the right development of the country as a whole.
Should we now focus on recovering those monies and the looting, as Seppo calls it?
Cindy, we should not just focus on them by catching a pie in the sky. There has been cases opened by various organizations and individuals with the public protector, with the police and so forth. The gentleman from the ANC Youth League has just mentioned a case of BLF, which was registered in the public protector's office, the same office that investigated the president, of monies amounting to 126 billion that were looted in South Africa before and during the democratic dispensation. And we shouldn't just focus on individuals or political office bearers as if there is no white-collar crime, as if there is no crime being committed by colluding banks, by colluding industries, by colluding mines to rip off the wealth of this country and taking it abroad. So as a nation, we should be focusing on opening all those cases and following them up. I want the EFF and the ACDP and DA to team up and rise like they have done with the Nkandla saga and say to the mining industry, where are our minerals going, and say to the cement cartels and all the construction industry, from what happened in 2010 to today, they should say, where did our monies go? As recent as 2 months back, we were sitting with the bread and the milk cartel in the country, which happens to be the staple food for the people of this country. And all these politicians and political parties are silent about that.
Yeah, and that's a problem. I mean, Tim Nkosi, as you were saying, that of course we cannot condone any violation of the Constitution or any wrongdoing, but the fact of the matter that we need to, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. We need to treat these matters equally with the seriousness that it deserves.
No, Cindy, the first thing I want to say is to appeal to ACDP. It is an organization of Christians. And one of the pillars of Christianity is that someone must be honest. And you can't lie to the public. You must stand firm in what you are believing in. I want to say that because there is a high court of the land. It says to you, Treasury, go and determine the amount. If you go back to the ad hoc committee in Parliament, the bone of contention, if you remember very well, that was that Treasury must be the one that determines. It did not happen. It was the Minister of Police. Hence, the matter went to the Constitutional Court because of Parliament did not at the time give Treasury those powers to determine the amount. Now, they went to Constitutional Court. The Court, the highest court in the land, then decide. If they are calling themselves constitutionalists, they believe in the Constitution and supremacy of the Constitution, they must then abide by that, because there is no any other court that can go to a different determination. They must just accept it, and they must stop wanting to score cheap political points. They must just be honest and stick to to their own Christian values and stop lying to the public.
So, is this not evidence enough that this is an example that President Jacob Zuma respects the judiciary and the institutions of this country by paying back the money?
That's a good thing, what you're saying. Paying back the money, we accept it. We said the final, the Constitutional Court ruling is final. However, we are saying there's many things. The President and Parliament have erred. If you read the Constitutional Court ruling, will show you that they've erred. They've done wrong. They lost the oversight of the matter. If they dealt with it when they're supposed to, would have saved us a lot more money, and we would have done better. I do not disagree with the gentleman who says that a ruling has been made, and we are agreeing. That's why I said my opening statement was very clear that we accept the Constitutional Court ruling as final. However, there's much more monies that must become, not only the President, further to the President, the others must also be taken to court and being prosecuted, and the money must be recovered. It's taxman's money that must be recovered. We agree with what the President has done. He has paid up. Yes, he's paid up. Today he paid up. So the
matter, we should think that the story is settled today. We can't be talking about the President infinitum. The President has done what he had to do. He has done it. The court ruled on it. Let's move on. However,
I agree with the gentleman on my left-hand side. And if you heard my conversation from the word go, we accept the ruling and the payment of the President. But we're saying that doesn't stop there. The President is done and dusted. He's done. He's finished. He's paid up. But however, we're still saying there's 246 million which was wrongly used, and we want to recover some of the taxman's money there also. So, President, yes, thank you. You have done. You paid back what was asked to be paid back. However,
but how was it wrongly used? How was it wrongly used when experts, when Treasury, when the Constitutional Court, when the Public Protector did not find any wrongdoing in the rest of the money? They have found it to be correctly used as substantiated by various government departments. That's the first element. The second element is, colleagues, we have to look at things not from a hate, race, or anger, one side only. Everybody is referring to the Constitution here. But we are forgetting that even wrongdoers in this country, they are protected by the same Constitution. The President has paid. He is still protected by the same Constitution of this country as a citizen of this country, as an individual. There are individual human constitutional rights that he's entitled to as a person. And we shouldn't put a blind eye on that. Just because he's a president, now he should be treated like an item and not like a human being. We should be very careful. I don't say he was not wrong. I don't say the other ministers and other departments were not wrong. And I'm saying a constitutional democracy is supposed to be a balanced democracy.
But how do you mitigate or circumvent the messaging from the opposition that the Nkandla debacle will be used in perpetuity, literally milking stone, or rather water out of stone, and bringing all the other facts without focusing on the fact that there was a Constitutional Court ruling and subsequent to that a remedial action for Treasury to have to determine the price. The price was determined. It has now been paid. And yet we still go back to the previous issues, underlying issues.
In fact, Cindy, I think now we are done with the debate of the President. The NCDP has considered, it's on record. They have considered that President Zuma has done his part. Now, I would not imagine a situation wherein we would say anyone must be stopped from then checking whether there was a fixation of prices somehow. We must encourage. In fact, NCDP, they are within their own right to go and check who has then fixated the prices that they were up and all that. They are allowed to do that. But the fact is that the President has paid his part. It is closed now. Let's focus now on those that they were pleased with quotations. They've charged 600 rand instead of 200 rands, etc., etc. But beyond that, when Cindy, I would imagine that probably there has been a process that has been followed to that effect. I would expect SCDP, probably tomorrow, we want them to go and open a case against whoever that might have been found, or conduct their own investigation. But let's agree that the matter has been closed as far as the president of the country is concerned.
Yeah, Mr. Derek, but I was saying that, our argument shouldn't come from a place of emotion or hatred or preconceived ideas. The facts on the matter is there was a certain instruction given that was followed through by the President. Why is it then that is not satisfactory?
Let me just clear, there's no hatred in our discussion. We seated here to find out the President has paid his money, and where to from here. We say there was a mistake. He paid. We're not even going further, and they said that 7.8 million rand has been paid. But let's check from tomorrow the articles that are going to come in, how the money came, where it came from, that's another question. However, we need to find out going forward that these type of things don't happen. It's not a matter of hatred. We don't hate anybody, right? But we hate the sin that is being created and the way other people are now being let down in going forward in this beautiful country of South Africa, the blessed country in South Africa. We're saying we need to move forward. Not a matter of hatred. No one hates anybody. The president is not hated. We respect the president in his office of the president.
Is he legally obliged, though, to disclose where he got the money from?
Yeah, look, I think for me, for good governance, transparency, which is what our constitution encourages, it was a good thing that the president has done that. But at the same time, one has to, actually, I think as South Africans, we need to be on guard. Because I can foresee that this VBS Mutual Bank, they are probably going to come under unprecedented pressure for, they will most certainly, there will be an attempt to punish them. But South Africans actually need to stand guard. For me, if I was an executive at VBS Bank, certainly this is the type of a client I would have wanted to get, because it's a premier client, being the president and being the prime real estate in the country. But on the other hand, we really need to guard against this tendency whereby there is a small group of people who want to rule by decree without being elected. And what do I mean? By controlling the money. And VBS, you'll find that there will be unprecedented pressure put on them, but South Africans need to be on guard. This must not be allowed, purely because the other banks are alleged to have declined to fund, and more so against the backdrop of the contentious bill called the FICA bill, whereby it is now being confirmed that almost all of the 5 banks, the big banks, have got President Zuma as #1 on the list of the politically exposed persons, and hence maybe their refusal to finance him.
But in closing, I'm just saying, let's just give credit
him
where credit was due. President Zuma wasn't legally obliged to disclose where he got the money, and yet he chose to do so. And that is something that can be seen in aid of transparency and in aid of hopefully finalizing this matter.
Well, Cindy, when I read the Constitutional Court ruling, it actually indirectly referred to Financial Intelligence Center of FICA Act of disclosing, and that's why I'm using the word indirectly. There's institutions in the country like South African Revenue Services, there's the FIC, there's the Financial Services Board. By virtue of their mandate as organization or state entities, they will behind the scenes check if there's money movements between individuals, especially high profile politicians, to check where did the money come from, who's the source of money. That will happen. But watch the space, how political parties and opposition are going to play on that and pressure these organizations from tomorrow to can go and dig where did the money come from. VBS, I feel sorry for them. They're in trouble from tomorrow. But I think they had a good plan.
And we shouldn't allow them to be in trouble.
We're going to have to leave it there. Derek Kisanduth is an MMC for Safety and Security and also ACDP, a National Treasurer, Tsepo Khadima, and Botsang Moila, political analyst, and Tembinkosi Josopo, ANC, NEC, Youth League, NEC member. Thanks indeed for your time. We'll take a quick ad break. We're back with BizSense just after this.